...2020. The year that changed our lives and brought the world to a standstill. So little could be planned, and yet so much happened that changed the way we live our lives.
No racist!
City, and we're going to make change together, okay?
We are really starting to see the brunt of this storm now as Hurricane Laura again passes.
It's a helicopter! We're going to carry this day in our hearts every day.
It is hard to define this year by a few memorable events. No one could have imagined that the top story would be a deadly pandemic that would alter the way we live.
I love you, Bo. He's one of the few that was intubated on a ventilator and recovered fully.
Coronavirus was merely a word on the back of a can of disinfectant spray. But the city of San Antonio, the state of Texas, the entire world would come to learn that the name of a new virus, a small, simple word, yet powerful in many ways.
First at 5, nearly 1 week after the Centers for Disease Control announced San Antonio would be home to a coronavirus quarantine facility, the group of evacuees from China have arrived to Joint Base San Antonio-Lackland.
And it will be part of a 14-day federal quarantine period, the first issued in 60 years, the CDC says.
Her third lab test came back, showing a weak positive for the virus.
While out of quarantine, we've learned that that woman checked into a hotel, visited North Star Mall stores, and ate at the mall food court.
We have the situation currently under control.
The city now confirming the first travel-related case of coronavirus in our community.
So today I am also issuing a declaration of public health emergency. The first travel-related case underscores.
There will be no dining in at bars and restaurants, and gyms will be closed.
Recommending that all people over the age of 5 wear a cloth face covering over their nose and mouth when they're in a public place.
COVID was scary. It was a novel coronavirus. It was new. There was so much we didn't know about it. And it would take our normalcies in life and turn them upside down. From getting an education to how families would continue to work, change had to happen and fast, and KSAT was no exception.
2020 has been upside down and inside out. I'm Bernice Carney. I'm the news director at KSAT.
All schools in the state of Texas shall be temporarily closed.
Everything, it was like drinking out of a fire hydrant. It changed everything.
And tonight we're announcing our stay-at-home emergency declarations, ordering residents to stay at home unless they are leaving for an essential or exempted activity.
2020 in a new sense. I don't even know where to begin. It's really hard to put into words the challenges that people in our profession have had to face this year, have had to work through. Hi, my name is Mark Austin. I am the morning anchor at KSAT 12, GMSA at 9 during the week, and I'm going on my 23rd year at this station.
Tonight we also have 3 new deaths from COVID to report tonight, bringing our total to 100 in our community since the crisis began.
Look at your latest local coronavirus numbers breakdown. Bexar County officially surpassing 1,000 deaths today.
It seemed like every day we were being flooded with new information, new data, And so it became more of a marathon that we had to kind of pace ourselves a bit and take a deep breath and say, okay, today we're going to start over.
The 6 o'clock news starts right now.
A change of heart today from Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He is now issuing his own mask mandate for all public spaces.
According to a study at Florida Atlantic University, well-fitted masks made from 2 layers of tightly stitched cotton fabric are the best when it comes to blocking the droplets from coughs.
We're doing the work that we're supposed to be doing as journalists, serving the community, whether it's talking about what the COVID pandemic has meant to our kids, to learning, to work, to medicine.
The pandemic would take its toll on us all. Schools went to remote learning. Parents became teachers. Businesses struggled to stay open, while some found other ways to keep the doors open, and some people found themselves in places they had never been.
From this 4th drive-through giveaway, more than 5,000 families should have enough food for the month.
The largest single distribution we've ever done, more than 1 million pounds of food coming from our warehouse, fresh fruits, frozen items, really good items.
The food bank says all the basic needs will be met in every food bundle, but with the holiday coming up, they wanted to be sure to include something sweet from the Easter Bunny.
Our homes, well, they would be redefined in more ways than one. They became a refuge from a relentless virus, but they also became daycares, schoolrooms, offices, and so much more for those who still had work to do.
We're social distancing to the extreme. Adam Caskey working from home today. Adam.
This is a first for me, by far a first in my career. Never really had to work from home before, but we're giving this a shot. And maybe I'll post some pictures and videos of.
All right, guys, well, during the pandemic, we are all trying to do what we can to take the necessary precautions.
We knew that there was a high likelihood that we were going to possibly have to anchor newscasts from home. And I got to do it one time, and it was basically to test all the equipment, make sure everything worked okay, looked okay, sounded okay.
It's obviously a little bit different. You don't get that, face-to-face interaction that you would normally get when you're working in the station.
Good morning, everybody.
My name is Hardy Meredith, and I'm the morning producer for Good Morning San Antonio, and I've been here for about a year. I usually get up about 11:30 p.m., and I look at emails and check all the notes from the night before and see if anything is still newsworthy from the night before.
That's where most of the rain was, so it didn't get in.
Oh yeah, the pros is, I saved a whole bunch of money on gas money not having to go anywhere. So I do have a family. I have 2 kids and my wife who are sleeping during the whole time that I'm working. So thankfully we have an extra bedroom so I can actually go in and speak and talk and do my job without having to disrupt them too much.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Karaman. I am the 5 p.m. producer for KSAT 12 News. So I'm currently in my home office. I have a daughter and my husband who are both here as well, working and learning online. And I'm producing with Alex on what day?
It's October 3rd.
I'd say, one of the biggest things that I miss the most is definitely the newsroom.
There's a word I would describe 2020 as it would be challenging.
Challenging could be an understatement, but it always seems to come up when mentioning COVID-19.
Oh, look.
Though we may want to forget the year 2020.
Wow, it just keeps going.
The year of drive-by birthdays and car parades.
We miss you. Physically see their teachers with still keeping respect to the whole social distancing.
The year would teach us more than we could imagine.
Right now we've been taken so far out of our norm. To be able to see each other in person is something that's great.
We've learned to be more nimble than we thought we could be. We have learned to be more flexible.
Nobody could have seen this coming, and we've all had to roll with the punches. And I think we've just tried real hard to, especially on the morning show, keep things as normal as possible.
It is a great tribute to have the Air Force Thunderbirds here.
To know
the training that they do and the history behind them.
Awesome, it's amazing. Sends a chill up my spine.
It signifies that what we're doing is important work and that people know that this is sacred work that we're doing and that someone really cares about the people inside the walls who are taking care of these patients.
It was awe-inspiring, actually. It just fantastic to see the support. That they're showing our community and really the whole nation as they go just really across the nation.
Cool. They're going about 80, 100 miles an hour, I don't know.
Just to see them flying like that, it just leaves you speechless.
Yes, just to say thank you to all the heroes and the people that have been working in the hospitals and things like that.
It's nice to get out and do something out of the house. So this is really going to bolster our spirits.
I think they're the best.
It never gets old seeing those birds fly. Never.
No justice! No racist! George Floyd! George Floyd! This is what democracy looks like!
It was more about the movement that we were seeing happening before our eyes.
McMichael and his father, Gregory, a former police officer, are accused of gunning down the young unarmed black man while in pursuit of what they've called a citizen's arrest.
More than 10 million people have signed an online petition demanding justice for the young woman who was killed by Louisville police during a no-knock search warrant. The petition for Breonna Taylor went viral and on Sunday reached the second highest tally in Change.org's history.
What do you want? I can breathe.
While a pandemic raged across America, 8 minutes and 46 seconds of a cell phone video that captured the death of a black man at the hands of police.
don't get in the car. Mama.
spurred a national movement in protest.
The vast majority of folks we saw out there throughout the day and this evening were there to peacefully assemble, which the city has a great tradition of doing. We can't let a few folks ruin it.
I've seen what happened to all my fellow brothers and sisters, man. I've seen the pain. I feel the pain. I feel it.
Say his name! George Floyd!
For so many people, convictions overcame fear as they took to the streets.
Demonstration in San Antonio began with hundreds of people rallied for justice at Travis Park. The crowd included people of all ages and ethnicities. I spoke with many of them who told me for them, this march was personal.
Out of the way! Out of the way! What the f***? You wasn't doing shit!
Welcome back to Late Breaking News here on the Night Beat. This is Sky 12 over downtown San Antonio. A large police presence in the streets around the Alamo and River Center Mall and the businesses in that vicinity after what was peaceful protests earlier in the day quickly turned to violence as night fell and some people began throwing objects at windows and breaking into stores, and we're still trying to learn more about the situation on the ground. This is a live shot as well.
I'm Misael Gomez. I'm a photographer here at KSAT. What's up, Pat? Adrenaline was pumping. I was by myself, and I figured I'm just going to get the live view started. I'm right in front of the protest, and I'm going to get out there and give them a live picture as I walk around downtown. But they're right in front of me, man. There were a few unruly people downtown, but for the most part, people were just yelling. They were upset.
Accountability for police brutality. Accountability for police brutality. Accountability for police brutality.
They were very angry with the police at that point, and they were angry at the media also. I got a few people telling me that, you know, it's your fault. Why did you cause all this situation? And I told them I had nothing to do with it. Even during the Spurs celebrations, I've never seen anything like that before. There were some really angry people at that point, and I was just worried for myself. They're chasing these guys around. They're coming over here. I'm not feeling very safe now.
Without photographers, we are not television.
I'm going to try to get over to my news unit. It's a hell of a long walk because I was just trying to get out of there when I got tear gassed. Man, I got tear gas like crazy. Oh.
You can't really do it without the photographers. They're really the people on the streets, and they're the people who make it happen. And that absolutely is so true in 2020. The photographers are out, they're doing the job of the reporters. They're doing the news gathering. They're putting themselves in harm's way, whether it's because of crowded situation and people not wearing their masks or, whatever, they're in it. That's always been the case, but it's been amplified.
Check this out. Fencing has been put up at Alamo Plaza in response to the last few days of protests.
Our Tiffany Huertas is at Alamo Plaza with
that day. There was a lot of things leading up to the event here in front of the Alamo.
Good evening. The Alamo Plaza looks very different tonight. There's several law enforcement agencies all over.
There was a curfew implemented. There were fences up along the Alamo, and businesses were boarded. So it was just an evolving day that led up to this night.
Hundreds have gathered outside public safety headquarters for what has been a peaceful demonstration.
I don't think I've ever covered a protest of that magnitude and with that significance.
Devin Clark is live at public safety headquarters. And Devin, how are things going out there right now?
It is peaceful out here. We can see that the crowd is growing.
It was difficult trying to maintain social distancing and also be a part of the situation and be there so that you could get a first-hand look. But at the end of the day, this was a pandemic, but it showed that not even the biggest health crisis of our lifetimes was enough to deter people from gathering and actually expressing their opinions, hoping to make change.
Devin Clark is live downtown right now with what he's seeing there on the ground. Devin?
EC Steve, we are out here at Travis Park, but today's protest started at San Antonio Police Department headquarters. Then the protesters marched to the Bexar County Courthouse, back to SAPD, and now here to Travis Park.
The protests that I saw were peaceful. They were very intense because a lot of people were emotional. A lot of people were on high adrenaline. It was very peaceful, and it was really intended, from what I saw, to actually bring forth the change. I keep using the word intense because that's really the best way I can describe it.
I can't breathe!
To hear one person chant something is one thing, but then to hear hundreds and hundreds of people chanting with the same common goal
United we stand! United we fall! United we stand! United we fall!
Is really breathtaking. I had to compose myself to make sure that I could stay calm and not let the goosebump feeling take over me, but it was definitely something that I will never forget, and you could just really feel the energy. It was palpable in the air that day.
There was a very large uncertainty that night. There wasn't anything specific that people were concerned about. It was just the unknown of not knowing what was going to happen next.
Protests in San Antonio would last about 2 weeks. A dialogue with city leaders would be started, though the city would see minimal damage after the protests ended. Some of the downtown businesses already affected by the COVID pandemic would suffer yet another blow. But some of the citizens of San Antonio would not let the actions of a few be a false representation of the community.
They say they watched in disbelief last night as groups vandalized and scarred the heart of downtown. And today, they came to help restore what others had destroyed.
Instead of showing up just to snap a picture, they came prepared to make a difference and help restore the peace.
So I woke up at 5. Christine loaded a trash can and supplies to head downtown early Sunday morning.
Just a whole bunch of trash bags, my 55-gallon trash can, and just a broom and my dustpan. And got some gloves because I figured there was going to be a lot of glass.
Rocket Fizz and Mar Imports Silver Jewelry's storefront suffered some of the worst damage on East Houston Street, with glass scattered all around, filling trash bag after trash bag. Around the corner on Lozoya Street, civilians worked overnight to clean up and pick up knocked over trash cans. Along Commerce Street, River Center Mall, the Torch of Friendship statue, Shiloh's restaurant, and Whataburger were all tagged and windows shattered. Shiloh's general manager told us a lot of their liquor had been stolen overnight.
I get that there's a national, problem, but it can be worked out better.
Lawrence manages the building on East Houston Street with some of the most affected businesses. Although frustrated with the destruction, he's not discouraged.
So, this is the story. That's what San Antonio is. It's not, individuals that are going around stirring the pot. We're all going to rebuild, and it's just going to get better. It's that simple.
And first at 5, San Antonio police making a policy change when it comes to releasing body cam footage. Documents released to the defenders show the department will be able to release portions of that video or 911 calls within that 60-day period, or explain why that footage or audio will not be released.
This move comes after Mayor Ron Nuremberg requested a review of the policy back in September.
Probably right up Sabine River. Oh, that's not good. It's time to take a look back at the biggest weather events of 2020 here in San Antonio.
Subdivision. There is a lot of damage here, and crews are still assessing that damage.
Where do we start? There were plenty of storylines, but one that really seemed to catch people's imaginations was a faraway visitor. Traveling thousands of miles, Saharan dust starts off the countdown at number 5. It hit South Texas hard this year. In fact, on June 27th, we saw a peak day of dust where visibility was reduced. Many people opted to stay in sight to avoid the potential headaches and health hazards that can come along with this dust. At number 4, we rewind to the last week of May. This week was a busy one that started with a tornado touchdown on May 24th on the west side of San Antonio that did a significant amount of damage. The Wild Horse subdivision was hardest hit. Then just 3 days later, a powerful supercell dumped large hail on the city's north side, bringing back memories of April 2017. Next on the list was a situation that affected everyone. We saw several stretches this summer without rain and witnessed blistering heat. At number 2, it feels odd that a pandemic would mix with weather, but there is a connection there that cannot be overlooked. And it was a hot topic at points during the pandemic. There was hope that hot weather might keep COVID-19 at bay, but cases ramped up again in July. And while weather may play a small role in how COVID spreads, hot, dry weather did not seem to have the desired effects we had hoped for. And it now appears a cold winter is also factoring into the situation. Lastly, at number 1, and I think this comes as no surprise to anyone, 2020 shattered records for tropical weather. A record number of named storms and a record number of landfalling storms, 3 of which had some impacts on Texas. Hannah and Beta made direct hits on the Texas coast.
To experience the gusty winds and the heavy rainfall at times, our very own meteorologist Justin Horn is out there on Padre Island.
Yeah,
for sure. We just saw a squall move in here, and the wind's probably the strongest that we've seen so far.
2020 saw a record number of hurricanes in the Atlantic. Pounding the Gulf shores, they brought extreme flooding and damaged thousands of homes. The KSAT weather team was here to bring you all the latest info, and they took you up close as the storms made landfall.
And the storm surge with Hannah is significant.
It was a record breaker. We saw more storms this year than we've ever seen before. When it comes to named storms, it was incredibly busy. It started early. We had Arthur on May 16th. That started everything off. And we went through the entire alphabet and then went into the Greek alphabet, which is pretty incredible.
And we're likely seeing some gusts up to around 100 miles per hour.
Laura was the most powerful. It was incredible to watch. And we were in East Texas, so we didn't get the worst of it. Folks in western Louisiana really took the brunt of that storm. There's a lot of damage there. We still saw winds, though, probably close to 100 miles per hour where we were, at least some wind gusts. The damage was pretty incredible. We were in Orange, which is close to Beaumont.
Widespread damage. We've already seen a ton of trees down, power lines down.
And there was quite a bit of damage there. The rainfall, the flooding. Laura had it all. It was one of those classic massive hurricanes that obviously left its mark.
Residents in Orange woke up to tree limbs covering their streets, some cars underwater, and windows shattered. The winds were enough to topple this large tree onto a house. Thankfully, the residents had evacuated. Their neighbors described the harrowing overnight hours.
I heard the wind, and I thought my whole roof was gone, but it wasn't. But the wind and the rain was just whipping.
Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, along with Congressman Ted Cruz and John Cornyn, toured the affected area by helicopter before delivering a press conference today. Abbott says the hardest hit areas he could see on the helicopter in Texas were right here in Orange. Still, by and large, most officials say Texas dodged a bullet.
We would not be gathering here right now had we seen a 10-foot or higher foot storm surge.
Storm surge ended up being lower, meaning much of the area's damage was due to wind.
It's awful to see, and it kind of looks sometimes like a war zone. I remember after Harvey, it looked like a war zone, but even Laura was kind of like that. You have trees down, and it's sad to see, and you want to talk to the people and kind of figure out, what they saw and what kind of damage they had to deal with, and you want to tell their stories.
Explosive bang? Think of it as a candle. It happened to be the reporter's birthday.
We had been watching a power line which seemed to kind of be dangling in the wind a little bit.
So it's going to move probably right up Sabine River. That's not good.
Sometimes when these hurricanes come through, the winds cause the transformers to blow. You see these power flickers kind of off in the distance. This happened to be a little bit closer to us. Did cause me to jump just a little bit. It was loud. You could kind of feel the heat a little bit, but thankfully we were far enough away to where it wasn't dangerous for us. It looked worse than it did in that video, and it kind of caught on. People thought that was pretty crazy, and it was, but no, we were safe.
And here's something you don't see every day. One Orange resident walked her llama through town, trying to get the animal to a safer place after losing a fence.
She was driving the car very slowly and then walking a llama alongside. And we asked her, you know, what's the story here? Because it is fascinating to see that. And she said the hurricane had blown down a fence, the llama had escaped, and she was doing her due diligence to make sure the animal was safe. There was a lot of oddities. Obviously, within a hurricane, a lot of crazy things happened, but that one is never anything I thought I'd see.
While the year saw the worst of disasters, a pandemic, record number of hurricanes, protests, violence, and looting, we are reminded that we all need to lean on each other for help, human or not. All things pass, and we eventually find ourselves in brighter days.
Hooking up trailers, carrying bobcats and other construction materials, then making the over 6-hour drive to Alexandria, Louisiana. It's what 10 crew members with the San Antonio Zoo did this morning to lend some much-needed help to the staff at the Alexandria Zoo, who has been cleaning up after Hurricane Laura hit last week.
It's a very stressful situation. You're trying to get everything cleaned up. You're trying to get everything back to normal as much as possible. Especially when you're talking about the welfare of the animals.
The crew will be cleaning up downed trees, debris, and restoring damaged animal exhibits. Adam Malstaff, the director of facilities with the San Antonio Zoo, says it was an easy decision to help out, saying all nonprofits that have the same goal of animal conservation are in this together.
So when it comes to somebody suffering or dealing with some sort of additional damage or loss of facility or anything like that, I think everybody's kind of rallies together.
They won't just be helping Alexandria clean up over the next 2 days, but giving the staff who has been working around the clock since before the hurricane hit a much-needed break.
And their staff's been there, they've been working. I'm sure they're all getting pretty tired, so hopefully us showing up will provide a little bit much needed relief.
And this is not the first time the San Antonio Zoo has helped out another facility after a natural disaster. They went and helped the downtown Houston Aquarium in 2017 after Hurricane Harvey.
In the last hour and a half, March Madness has been canceled. The biggest, of course, for San Antonio is the Spurs. And after the NBA suspended the season last night,
I remember just being blown away by it. Like, wow, this is really happening.
world of sports wasn't immune to the effects of the pandemic. Sports fans looking for an escape from the everyday would find even sports canceled, at least for a while.
Greg Simmons is live courtside with a preview and more on those new coronavirus protocols. Greg?
These extraordinary measures are being put in place to try and prevent the spread of the coronavirus disease here in the United States. As we've seen soccer matches abroad play without fans, it has not come to this point yet here in North America, but it has begun with limiting members of the media with access to the team. That included not being allowed into the Spurs practice facility today to record this morning's shoot-around, and interviews had to be conducted on a table set at least 6 feet away from reporters.
Just kind of went over the disease this morning and told us what it is, what it's not, the best way to prevent it.
And as you hear from the players, according to them, there'll be no more autograph and photo sessions for the fans before games here at the AT&T Center.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, out of an abundance of caution and at the direction of the National Basketball Association, tonight's game has been postponed.
Now, when it comes to the Spurs case, as many as 19 games up in the air, 11.
And then it took me back to Rudy Gobert of the Jazz,
who tested positive for COVID-19.
Touching all the microphones and doing all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, because when he did that, I'm like, that wasn't a smart move. I know you were just trying to be funny, but man, that was not smart.
Mark Mendez. I've been at KSAT 27 years, and I'm the sports photographer.
We're the first major Brandeis sports team to advance to any state tournament.
Now we're going to state. It's so amazing. It's hard to process.
The Cole Cougars will return to state for the second straight year. Cougars will take on Peaster Thursday at 3 p.m.
We're in the middle of the state high school basketball tournament here in San Antonio.
We went back to edit our highlights, sent back.
And it gets shut down.
All of a sudden, all the monitors flashed up a sign saying that the tournament was being suspended.
None of the teams got to complete. Everybody got close. Cole, they were on their way to the state title. Got stopped after the semis, and it was their game that was the last game played at the state championship tournament in the Alamo Dome.
Amid growing concern over COVID-19, the UIL Boys State Basketball Tournament was suspended on Thursday. Now, those associated with the 3 San Antonio programs still playing, Cole, Wagner, and Brandeis, are hopeful that they will be able to play for a state championship in the future.
I will tell you, it is our goal, it is our hope, it is our intention to complete this tournament.
San Antonio's Cole played in the last game before the decision went into effect.
It's definitely an unfortunate situation for everybody. These kids, they worked so hard to get to this point.
Disappointment may be an understatement for the 33-3 Brandeis Broncos, who are making their first appearance in the state tournament.
As a coach, that's your goal, is to coach in the state tournament. To get a team there with a group of kids that are so deserving, it's definitely heartbreaking.
At first, it's just devastating. We've been working our whole season for this, and we finally got here. I'm super excited to go play in the Alamo Dome.
The Wagner Thunderbirds, who are making their 5th overall appearance in the state tournament, were ready to seek revenge on a Mansfield Timberview team that had beaten the Thunderbirds in the 5A state finals a season ago.
I just felt bad for them. With 12 seniors, this is their last hurrah, and who wants to end it like this,
With a rescheduled date up in the air, coaches will have to keep players motivated indefinitely.
One of the things we're going to have to try to find reasons for them to be as excited again.
But as of now, players say they're ready to take the court whenever they need to.
Just taking one day at a time. Whether we prepare for a week, 2 weeks, it doesn't matter. We're going to be ready when the game comes, if it comes.
I've been doing this for 40 years now. I have never lived through anything that comes even close to a COVID-19 pandemic. It was, in some cases, the worst ever, and in other cases, the best ever, because the worst being sports shut down. Now what do? And on top of that, we were doing an hour instant replay with no live sports.
Locally covering sports 2020 during the pandemic, to me, I see it more as a speed bump. It didn't stop us entirely from covering at least local sports. We still did a lot of high school stories, a lot of college stories. But instead of going and doing most of them face-to-face, now we're doing the stories via Zoom, FaceTime, Skype.
Joe Hunt and Amechi Nawazi prepare for their own shot in the D1 ranks, but they're confronting a number of challenges during the ongoing pandemic.
It is
difficult to make it to this level. With the majority of pools still closed, it's been more difficult to simply stay in shape. To do that, Joe and Amechi have had to get creative.
We have a pool at my house. It's no more than 3 meters long, but what we did was we dug a hole straight down and drove a pole through it so we could attach a bungee to it. And I'll swim for an hour 15.
For my experiences during this with the high school athletes, their parents were the ones that were actually more upset, at least visibly outward. Maybe at home, the kids were super upset. You know, don't get me wrong, they were upset talking to me, but it was the parents who were the ones that were the most upset because they wanted their son or daughter to be able to play so they possibly get chances to be seen by college, you know, scouts and recruiting, so then maybe they can go play some D1 or D2 or D3 athletics somewhere and, you know, and help out with their education at the same time.
We're doing remote broadcasts. We're also doing remote producing. We're doing remote photography. We're doing a lot of remote things we never thought was possible. The brick and mortar stations are no longer necessary. That's a strange feeling, you know, because my entire life has been spent inside a studio, inside a station, at a desk, out doing live shots.
That's the biggest thing that I'm going to remember. The NBA shutting down, and then after that, it's the NBA playing in a bubble, the NHL playing in a bubble, and then all the talk leading up to an NFL season. Are they going to even make it through the season? Are they going to make it through the college football season? You know, and fingers crossed, the NFL is still rolling full steam ahead.
The one thing sports provides you generally is a distraction, a relief from the everyday worries of what's going on in the political life or public life or just life in general. You know, it offers you enough challenges. This is a chance to get away. It wasn't there, it was gone. So I think more people are going to appreciate the fact it's back.
Yes, sports is back, though it looks and sounds a little different. Feels different to the athletes. To some, it is a small glimmer of hope to getting back to the way things once were, before COVID. Even for those who aren't sports fans, we can all agree anything positive is welcome during these times.
The people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory.
If Trump lost fairly, that's one thing.
We've won with the most votes ever cast on a presidential ticket in the history of the nation.
But he didn't. He was cheated. It was stolen from him.
74 million.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win.
May God bless America, and may God protect our church.
We're still here for the long haul. It's not over yet.
$1 billion if you
That
get rid of
is
the press.
absolutely not true.
However, it's described.
Gentlemen, I hate to raise my voice, but I see it seems to be.
What happened on that stage in Cleveland between the presidential candidates may or may not have swayed voters.
But it seems to have created an overall sense of discouragement or malaise, sort of this feeling like, how did we get to this point?
Feelings the clinical psychologist says were triggered by what was said.
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
And the chaotic atmosphere viewers witnessed.
Folks, do you have any idea what this clown's doing?
There's nothing smart about you, Joe.
For some, she says the verbal blows reinforce their belief that the fate of the country depends on the election.
Then probably it's absolutely legitimate to be depressed, frustrated, hopeless.
McNaughton Castle says regulating your consumption of news helps relieve stress, but also
You have to channel those frustrated, sad, depressed feelings into what can I do to make a difference.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
And just when we thought another month of 2020 could not be as dramatic as the last, the November presidential election proved to be the most contentious in American history. And we all had a front row seat.
It is election night 2020, a massive early voter turnout, and today
2020 is perhaps the most unpredictable year I have ever spent in television news.
We knew that we weren't going to have a decision on election night. And I remember, it was the same thing as when in 2000.
The path to becoming president will depend on electoral votes.
It was something like I've never seen before. I mean, usually we do campaign profiles where we go out with the candidates and we go to a coffee shop or we go to a restaurant and get to know them a little bit better. That can't happen in 2020. So it was just a weird election year in so many ways, but the way we had to cover this election too was just totally different.
This is a debate like no other. We are here in a mostly empty auditorium.
So everybody was sort of gearing up for 2000 type, where there was going to be a little bit of a protracted time frame in which we would find out who the president-elect was going to be.
It was mixed feelings for me on election night because I always love when people participate in the process just because of the elections. But even election night, we do a live stream in the newsroom.
We usually have, people coming through the news department and they're, we're getting them mic'd up and we've got the little green room going and we've got, people in and we're chit-chatting with them. There was none of that. There was only one person who physically came in for their time on the live stream. Everybody else was Zooming in.
Even the reporters out in the field, it was different for a lot of them because there weren't the campaign parties that there have been in the past.
It's a bit of a different scene out here, not very loud.
And we had a lot of people that voted early, voted on election day. I mean, I think we had record numbers in Bexar County, which was great.
We officially broke the 2016 in-person numbers.
Enthusiasm bringing many Bexar County voters out for the first day of early voting, even causing some to line up ahead of time.
I got here about 7:20, so I've been here for about 3 hours.
That enthusiasm translated into some lengthy lines, stretching into the sun, back and forth under shade, or around a mall, taking up hours of the day.
About 2.5 hours.
2 hours and 20 minutes.
3 hours.
And while many stuck it out, not everyone had that kind of time.
We just got here, we looked at how far it was, and due to our work, we have to come back another day.
And finding a better spot wasn't always guaranteed.
My sisters are over on the northwest side of town and they've gone to location and location. There's always people surrounding the building or area.
But some were easier than others. There may have still been a line at Cortez Library on the south side, but a much shorter one.
It's about a 20-minute wait, not too bad.
And voters were able to cast a ballot at any of the early voting locations, not just the closest one. And if you find yourself at one with a line,
lay off the liquids because you might need to use the restroom.
There wasn't a lot of engagement necessarily 4 years ago or 8 years ago like we saw this year. And I think part of it is because just how weird 2020 was. I mean, you had the coronavirus, you had layoffs, you had shutdowns, you had an election with, a president who was on Twitter and very outspoken about different issues, whether you agree with them or not. He certainly was outspoken. And so I think all of that led to people wanting to be engaged and people realizing that their vote does make a difference.
It was an election like no other in the presidential race.
They received 1,000 mail-in ballots today.
This race is nowhere near finished.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
We are about to get the first speech to the nation as president-elect from Joe Biden, now about to be the 46th president of the United States.
This is not the end, but the beginning of our fight.
Joe Biden supporters taking to the streets of downtown San Antonio to celebrate the new president-elect's victory. The Texas Organizing Project hosted the march, which also aimed to honor the validity of votes.
We come together.
And members like Sofia Sepulveda say it's a matter of democracy.
We need to make sure that we're telling everybody your vote is important, your voice matters.
Incumbent President Donald Trump released a statement following his loss, saying that on Monday, his campaign will begin prosecuting their case in court to ensure election laws are fully upheld and the rightful winner is seated.
Historically, it's almost impossible to overturn an election. Almost impossible.
Despite any potential challenges, there is still a legal process to go through before a new president is sworn in. Congress must have a joint session on January 6th. Hyatt says the Constitution created the process to ensure a peaceful presidential transition.
It's going to move slow on purpose so that we don't just go crazy and do something without thinking it through.
Alfonso Garcia says Biden's win is something worth waiting for.
If the world gets better or the country gets better for my kids, then that's a plus in my book.
Garcia has no doubt the right person won.
The people have spoken, period.
KSAT explains.
KSAT explains. KSAT explains.
KSAT explains.
If you've tried to watch KSAT News at 9 on our digital platforms, we're in the middle of some drastic changes. We are retooling our digital newscast into a weekly program called KSAT Explains. It is a weekly show where we take one topic and we explain it from several different angles.
You can watch it when we drop it in the morning at 9 a.m. or you can watch it 24 hours later.
The protests and demonstrations have played out.
I'm Myra Arthur.
I am Lexi Salazar, and I am the producer of KSAT Explains.
It's something very easy to watch.
We're realizing that people have a thirst for knowledge.
Wildfires burning in the West and an extremely active hurricane season. These two weather phenomena have become politically charged. Conversations about both have turned to conversations about climate change.
Never before in my 10-year career have I seen people so interested, thirsty for news, particularly local news.
Rising property taxes.
The roots of Tejano run deep in South Texas. We examine the cultural impact the music has had.
We give you a picture from start to finish.
This episode of KSAT Explains will talk about that history.
We did a whole episode about Mexican candy.
From the sweet to the sour to the spicy, the flavors of Mexican candy are familiar to most South Texans.
Why it is something that so many people in South Texas gravitate towards.
I have the memories of like hearing the ice cream man, and like asking my mom for $1 just so I can go get this candy.
Here in San Antonio, it's not hard to find obleas, cocadas, and of course, chamoy. And chamoy has even become a staple in bars.
It makes their drink go, it gives them that extra burst that they love, that sour taste.
And ice cream shops.
I love the taste of the mangonera.
One of my personal favorites has been the coffee episode.
It used to be just a morning beverage, the drink you needed to start your day, something you ordered with breakfast at a diner. But now it seems coffee is ingrained in our culture. Coffee houses have become social spots.
We wanted this to be a place that was community oriented.
Coffee orders have become more sophisticated.
It's so nuanced, depending on how much water you put in, how much you grind it, what your brew process is, and the way it's processed.
Coffee mugs have become trendy.
Everything here, especially at the warehouse, is kind of a raw, rustic, industrial feel.
And over the years, more and more local entrepreneurs have made coffee their livelihoods.
KSAT Explains is a streaming show. We have it available on all of our digital platforms. Probably the easiest way to get to it is going to our website, ksat.com/explains.
All of our digital platforms, phone app, our streaming app, our social media channels have never been better, and I hope that we can improve on that in 2021.
In hindsight, it is easy to find some humor in the shortages of toilet paper and hand sanitizer and all that we come to endure in 1 year. But 2020 was a defining moment for a lot of people. You can say that every year we come to appreciate all that we take for granted: our jobs, our homes, the mundane of our everyday lives, our elderly, our neighbors. But 2020 made us realize that there was so much more that we took for granted. Our frontline workers, first responders who worked behind the scenes in years past, now work to save lives while the world watched. Our service industry workers, who in years past might not have been recognized, much less appreciated, would now come to our rescue as our essential workers. With the first COVID-19 vaccines arriving in South Texas, there is a light at the end of the pandemic tunnel. Yet, as much as we want to forget 2020, it will be a year that won't be forgotten.
I think it's time to take a pause and deep breath as individuals, as coworkers and families and friends, and maybe even as a country, and maybe be grateful for getting through this together.
I'm always amazed by this community, whether it's hurricanes or floods or whatever comes our way, how we band together to fight whatever happens.
I hope that what we have learned and what we have lost, what we have gained, continues with us into 2021.